back to another episode of CATV Tech Talk. My name is Drew, with our co-host Jesse. How's it going, Jesse?
What's up, man?
Living the dream. What's
I
our
feel you.
episode 5 for us? Number 5. It's been a ride already.
I think we'll get better and better at it.
Yeah, and maybe we'll take this as I'll take this as an opportunity to apologize to all of our faithful listeners that's been holding on and getting through my horrible rambling and talking. But hey, we'll keep getting better.
I really thought we started peaking a little better episode 2, so we'll get better and better, man.
Yeah, that first one was absolutely fucking horrendous, though.
Well, it told the story of like what we started doing years ago with the Facebook and everything, and where we came from. So it was a good basis, I think.
Is that your dog?
Yeah, he shouldn't be barking right now, but he is.
So today's episode, organization, were you a guy all about the organization of the tools?
I was kind of anal about my truck back in the day, man. Like, only because when I let it go to shit, I literally couldn't find anything, and it took me 9 times longer to do anything. So, like, for instance, how I did things is different kind of than a lot of guys, maybe. Like, I didn't have trash buckets and all that shit, but I rewired so much stuff, like as just a tech, that every day I'd have to go by the shop and use the dumpster and like unload miles of fucking cable. And then how we got we called it Night Owl, which was where they restocked us. And we had to clean our vans out on Wednesdays. And this was before we started taking our trucks home, and we would leave them overnight, and the next morning we could get there and all our new shit would be in there. Well, then when they changed that, we would have to clean them out that morning, and then they would bring a box truck down when we'd all meet at the office to get our new stuff. But they gave it to us. We didn't get like totes or anything. We got like just cardboard boxes full of boxes, and we got tackle boxes. I think everybody's had those, the tackle boxes, splitters, connectors, and everything in it.
I actually never got one of those.
Really? Ours looked like a fishing tackle box, like no lies, and it had trays in it. You pulled it out, had 2 ways, 3 ways, whatever in it. And in the top, you'd have all your phone stuff, and so it was kind of organized already whenever you got it. But I would always, like, the day before I was about to get restocked, I'd like rob that one and like stuff everything in the side bins.
Yeah.
So I'd never run out of stuff. But like I would always during the week, like you're always in a hurry. Like there'd be cable and shit down in my box where my converters and modems and shit were. And it was kind of hard to keep like perfect, but I would always get like the bulk of everything out every day, or it'd drive me nuts. And like I ran so much cable too that I'd have to replace my spool of wire for my drop wire and my inside wire all the time. And I had it in the side of my van. I had 2 spools. Then they started giving us these boxes that were like a box of cable. Did you ever have those up there?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and like I like those better because I could just drag it wherever and it was easy. But in terms of tools, I just threw everything in a tool bag.
What kind of tool bag did you end up using?
I actually bought one. I bought a DeWalt bag. I think it cost me like $30 at Lowe's, and it had like all kinds of pockets around the side, and like I'd put my strippers and crimpers and shit in it. And in like one pocket I'd put splitters and barrels and whatever in there, and then I had like 3 bags of connectors, and after about 2 days of working in it, shit was strung all in the bottom of it,
Yeah.
Staying organized is a hard thing to do when you're always on the run, man.
Yeah, I always threw a 55-gallon drum container in the back of my truck. Huge. I mean, it was gigantic, but I could fill that thing to the top. It would take almost a week before I'd have to go back to the top, or go back to the office to empty it out. So to me, to have that in there, it was that much easier. Yeah, it took up space, but I could just throw shit in it and not have to worry about it.
I'm just trying to figure out how you fit it in there, because like how my van was set up, like if you open the back doors, there's that open space there that goes from the back door to like the wall before you get into the cab.
Yep.
and then on the far wall, on the driver's side wall, there was I had like drawers and cabinets and shit. But I can't imagine as much shit as I had to carry around, like putting a 55 gallon drum in there. There's just no way.
It sat in that weird in between because on my van I had the side doors, so I could go to the side doors and you'd find on the left my drop cable would be there, and then just like your truck, it sounds like straight ahead I had a cabinet to the right and then just regular shelving. But that barrel sat pretty much dead center of the truck. So that way, if I hopped in the back, I still had another 3 feet in on the back. So I guess it was all about the placement of it. But I was lucky. My truck had a ton of storage, a lot of shelves. Every wall had something on it. So there was really not too many places I didn't have to put something.
I think more than anything with being organized in your truck, though, like it was different for me when I had a van compared to when I had a bucket truck. Man, when I had a bucket truck, I cleaned that thing like once a month. I would throw shit in the back bed of that thing and didn't give a damn. It looked like I was it looked like I worked on cable and sanitation at the same time. Like for real, I'd be like up in the bucket working on something, and I'd be drinking a Dr Pepper. I'd just throw the can down there. It'd be down there for 6 months in the back of my truck. Yeah, I didn't give a shit. But in that scenario, like all my stuff was in the side bins of my truck. It wasn't in the back, right?
Yeah.
So that was easier to get to like taps and connectors and stuff compared to like being like in a van. You don't have that option, right? Like everything's in kind of one spot. So I tried to stay semi kind of organized, but it was hard to. The biggest thing was just cleaning it out and getting the junk out daily. It wasn't like organizing it every day. It was just getting the garbage out. But
Yeah.
like for instance, open the back door, my climbing gear would be hanging like right on the hooks in the back of my back door of my van.
Yep.
And right below that was my tool bag. Right next to it was my tackle box, had all my splitters and junk in it. And then behind that, like lined up was all my boxes with like my converters and my modems and all that. And then I'd put like house boxes and ground wire and all that up in the like space against the driver's side wall. And then if you go around the side, then van doors slide open like on the side. That's where my two drop cables would be. But I'd always get extra like those boxes, like I said. And then I had a spool too, like a reel, and I would always keep a reel of RG11. So if I needed to run a 6 drop, I'd just pull it out of that side spool that was sitting there. If I needed to run an 11 drop, I just pick that thing up and sit it where I needed to go and run it out that way. But really, it's hard. Like I said, it's hard to stay completely organized when you're on the run. Like it just is. I think the best option you have as a tech is just to get rid of the debris every day. That's the best way to, you know where everything's going to be. It's just getting all the junk out of your way every day. I think that's the biggest deal.
I've tried very, very hard to have only my tool bag on the floor of my truck and nothing else. That way, it was kind of all the inventories on the shelves. I don't have to worry about trying to sort through it. Um, you know, the one problem I had, it was really the cable boxes were always changing. So it was hard to find a good way to throw them in the truck without them getting destroyed and getting banged around. I ended up putting a cargo net on one of the shelves. So when I took that right turn a little too hard, all the friggin' boxes would catch the net would catch the boxes, and I wouldn't have to worry about that repeat, 6 days down the road because of that speed bump.
I was going to ask something. That sounds interesting. Maybe it's different from here to there. Like in my system back then, we had to everything we didn't use that week, we had to turn back in.
No, we
Did you
had to
guys?
scan weekly. We scanned
So
our
so
CPE.
you kept the same equipment. You just
Yep.
did you just scanned it back into yourself, right?
Yep. Yep. You had to
See,
scan it to kind of it to put it back on your buffer.
see, that's different. See that you had a better situation. Me, like,
Not necessarily
well,
because
we
what
had to pack all that stuff up every week and turn it back in, and then get new stuff every week.
yeah, but see, I remember when I first started, you'd have that paste DVR that was sitting in the corner that never got used that you were holding on for 4.5 weeks. And like I said, it's banging around the inside of your truck. You go to put that thing in and repeat. chance is going to be stupid high. Versus when you have to trade in your equipment every week, at least you get new equipment every week. Or
Not necessarily. Like the warehouse had temps, man. Like the warehouse had temps. Like those guys are all high off their ass. I mean, walking in, dude. I've got boxes like straight out of my night owl, man. That I'd like pick it up and you barely touch it. Like pick it straight up and it'd like have all kinds of rattling shit in it. And you're just like, yeah, I can't use that one. You just fucking sling it.
I'll never forget the when Comcast started vacuum sealing all their cable boxes before they'd give them to us as techs, and it was the grossest thing ever because you'd end up it was always with the digital boxes. You take the digital box out of the out of the cardboard box and you'd look through the clear plastic wrap, and all you would see is just roaches everywhere, just stuck because they suffocated because they vacuumed the bag. So they all tried to get out of the box and they didn't make it. So now you're walking into a customer's house with this brand new refinished or supposedly brand new refinished box, and there's roaches falling out of the packaging.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Yeah,
They gave us roach bags. I had a couple of those. Like you
yeah,
remember
I
that
had
big
those too.
center, like that center thing and that little what the fuck, man? I'm going my brain. The little compartment in the middle between your seats.
Center console.
I guess that's the way to call it. I'm from Georgia, man.
I was gonna say,
Anyway,
is this another northern southern fucked up word opportunity?
no, I would have said console too. I was having a brain fart. I would put down in there. I had like whenever we had paperwork orders, all my paperwork orders would be down there. But then they took that away from us. But like I'd keep like I always had letters. Like if I had to drill, like I would do it
Yeah.
for a month at a time, and I'd have people sign that you're the owner of the house, yada yada. Because I got burned on that before, so I was like, I'll keep. And I had a folder down there. I'd keep them in, and I'd turn them in every time we'd have our like first of the month meeting thing.
Was that a required thing?
No, I started doing it on myself, man, because this one time I rewired this. There was this house that was like looped with 59 wire, like one fed the other, and it was brand new 59 wire. Don't get me wrong, but it was 59 wire, and you couldn't even get a connector on it. And I told the guy, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I just bought this place. Do whatever you got to do." So I drilled down into the house, into the wall box, down into the crawl space. So I didn't really drill in the floor except for one spot where there wasn't a wall box, and he didn't want me to drill in the wall. And I said, okay. So I popped one in the corner. It turned out he didn't own the house, and I got in a lot of shit for it. So I thought to myself, well, and I told Rick, I said, well, from now on, I'm getting a letter from everybody that says I'm the owner of the house. And it turned out 3 years later, I had kind of a similar situation. They pulled that letter out and they put it off on the renter instead of us. So I didn't get in any trouble for it. So that was a good thing to do.
Look at that. That's not so. There you go for some of the guys listening. That's a tip. If you've had problems with that in the past, maybe that's a good idea to start doing that.
I just wrote out like I would put my name is, and I'd have them fill it out, whatever. And I'm the owner of this premises. I worked at Comcast at the time, so I give Comcast permission to drill a hole in the floor to install a cable outlet, or in the wall to install a cable outlet, whatever. And I'd have them sign it and date it. And yeah, they take it from there. But that saved me on that last one. But I'd put that stuff down in there, and like like I'd have those. You're talking about roaches, those roach bags I'd put up there, stuff like that. But the whole roach thing, man, if I ever had something that was like that nasty, I'd put them in one of them roach bags, and then I'd put it in a trash bag. And as soon as I got back, I'd throw it in the warehouse.
Anytime I do any type of work in Lowell and I take a box out, the first thing I would do is drop it on the ground. If anything crawled out of it, it went right back into the house. Told the customer they could bring it down to any of the service centers and drop it off, because I had to bomb my van at least 3 or 4 times for roaches. It was terrible. So I just stopped taking them. I left them there. But no, so you weren't a tool bag. You weren't a tool belt guy at all. You were more of a tool bag kind of guy.
Yeah, I didn't. I never wore a tool belt like while I was working inside the house or anything.
I did it once, and I ended up walking down this ladies' hall, and the pouches on the side ended up swiping the wall and taking out these commemorative plates that ended up being like her mother's. And this lady was
Oh no.
probably in her 90s as it was. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. She's like, no, no, it's okay. Like, they were just my mom's. And I'm like, oh, great. So after that, I stopped doing the tool belt.
Yeah, I had one. It sat in my truck the whole time on one of them shelves the whole time I worked there. The only time I wore a belt's like when I climbed or went up a pole, like everybody else. But no, I
See, and
carried around.
I didn't do that when I climbed.
Would
I
you just
didn't
keep it in your pockets?
No, I had these little Klein pouches that I could clip onto my tool belt.
I had like a climbing like we gaffed down here. Y'all didn't gaff up there, did you?
No, or
Well,
at
I had a
least
climb.
not where I was. I know the farther north you go, they do.
Well, we did. We gaffed down here, so I actually had a climbing belt, and I zip tied three little baggies, a little you were talking about climb bags. I zip tied them little climb bags, and I had one off to the side where I could put my strippers, my crimpers.
Yeah.
It wasn't a pouch. It was just like a leather kind of tool
Yep.
holder thing, and I'd put connectors and tags and all that in one bag, and that's the only time I wore a belt. So like when I was on a pole. Other than that, I had that DeWalt bag that it might have been a Cobalt, one of the two, DeWalt or Cobalt, either one. I think I might have had one of each at one time. But they just carried on your shoulder, everything you needs right there. Like the only thing I'd ever have to grab is like house box, ground wire, like a split
Yep.
bolt, whatever. Um,
I ended up doing a backpack for a long time. There was a company, I forget who put them out. I want to say it was a company called CRC, and they put out these backpacks that were tool bags, but they were backpacks at the same time. But this one was really cool. It had a place for everything: zip ties, connectors. I could loop jumpers together, and actually there was a pouch in the front I could slide the jumpers into. But for those apartment buildings that you had to climb in the city, anywhere up to 3 to 10 floors, and carry those cable boxes, you only want to make one trip. So it's nice to be able to throw the bag on your back and then carry the cable boxes up with your hands and not have to worry about trying to carry a tool pouch or a tool bag and cable boxes. So it definitely made it a lot easier to get around. I'm not going to lie, though. Now I use I actually might catch shit for this one. I use a rolling tool bag, and nothing beats that.
I love it though, man. Like me, with that when you're talking about carrying boxes, that tool bag I had was probably 2 foot long.
Oh, wow. Holy
So
shit.
I could actually lay like DCTs and shit down in it and carry that in with me, like or whatever. You know what I mean?
I always use the bags from the call centers. They had the little totes. I don't know. Did you guys have those down there?
Those little like red bags with the handles that were kind of
Yeah.
lightweight.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I never used those. I actually whenever I'd get those, I just use it to turn my shit back in.
No, I
Yeah, I
thought they
just
were awesome for it. Well, see, again, were you at Comcast when they started wrapping the boxes in plastic?
yeah, I was still around then. Yeah.
And that's what I use the red bag for mostly. So it was great to have it to bring the boxes in, but it was awesome to have to throw all the trash in. Then I could throw it in my 55-gallon drum in the back of my truck after. But it was a lot better than trying to grab all the crap and just shuffle it out to your truck. It was one spot.
Yeah, no, I just most of the time which I worked in a system that which towards the end of my like run as a service tech installer or whatever you want to call me, I worked in a system where there might have been 5 houses that had more than three pieces of equipment in it. So I live. It was at a very, I guess the word you want to use is impoverished. Is that a good word? Poverty.
Poor as fuck.
Yeah, it's just a poverty-stricken area, man. And like a lot of those houses were built like in the 50s, and like they were really small. Most of them were like a 2 bedroom. If there was a 3 bedroom house, they were living high on the hog. So like they were easy to wire. You didn't have a lot of pieces of equipment. Most of the time, you'd have like a DVR, a DTA, and a modem. So like you're not carrying a lot of stuff anyway. So I never needed any extra, space or anything to carry something, or you know what I mean. I just didn't need it.
Jeez. And I have when I one of the last installs I ended up doing. And again, when I finished my Comcast career, I finished in the coast of New Hampshire, so on the East Coast. We had mansions that are right on the ocean, and we were doing installs that have 15 to 25 boxes per house. Where there was actually one house where they had to set up a separate account just because they maxed out the amount of boxes you could have on the one account, and it wasn't commercial. This was a residential account.
I've only done something like that one time. And since we're on the topic of organization, I'll tell you how unorganized this was. I told you a couple episodes back, actually episode 1, when we were talking about where we came from. When I was training down in Georgia, they had me going out doing QCs on the new guys, and I'd go check on them and help them and stuff. Well, this one guy had an install at a dentist office, and he had to install, I think it was 44 DTAs.
At a dentist office?
Dental office, yeah. The only reason I remember that it was a dental office is I remember going in and out of the back with him, and all these people in these rooms and the chairs with the shit hanging out of their mouth, and we were having to go in and out of these.
I don't want to make a southern comment, but man, I guess dentistry is good down there.
I reckon, dude. 44. And I remember, and all the wiring ran out to a panel in like this room, like right before it went to the outside. So we had to run an outlet out the wall, and then run an 11 drop to it. And then we ended up basically, because they didn't have internet with Charter, they just had TV. So all we did was just amp like a bunch of 8-ways, because them DTAs work on just about anything.
Yeah.
So we like amped a bunch of 8-ways, but it was talking about unorganized. This kid had brought in 44 DTAs and like laid them on the floor. And then he went and got 44 power plugs that he didn't know what they went to, and just threw it in the floor. Oh, and half of these power plug these AC plugs, yeah, they didn't work for DTAs. So then we were like, it was like a big thing of like spaghetti wire. We were like pulling them apart, trying to figure out which ones we could use and which ones we couldn't. And that was just killing time. And I'm like, dude, you're killing yourself right here, man. Yeah. And he had ripped, they came like packaged, you had your DTA and your power plug and your jumper.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yep.
He ripped every one of them open and started throwing them in piles. And I'm like, what? Man. It was just, it was more of a headache than it had to be.
See, it depends what it was. If I went to a big install, we'll say that it was 1X1 box, 3 DTAs, and I don't know, 2 XIDs. I think at most at the truck, while I was smoking a cigarette, I'd take all the HDMIs out of the bag and all the twist ties off. Maybe do that to try to save some time when I went in the house. But when I'd kind of go in, walk around, see what I would need, make a mental checklist, or if the house was that big, go on my phone and make a checklist. Then I'd go out to the truck, load up those red bags I was talking about, walk right back in, and just set down, if it needed 1 XID, 1 jumper, and 1 HDMI, I'd leave those, and whatever, so on and so forth. The new wall plate, I drop it there if it needed it, and then I just go from room to room, and whatever I dropped, I'd install. That way too, if somebody ended up coming to help me, it wasn't 45 fucking questions. It's this room, this room, this room. The stuff's there. Just do it. Done.
The only time, looking back on it, you're talking about the backpack and the bags. The only time I ever had to make like 2 or 3 trips to a truck, I did have one giant install, and this was a rarity. Where it was at, they had built this subdivision in kind of right on the line of where our system stopped, and when I was at Comcast and where Charter picked up, it was like right at the verge there, right? So we were barely like they actually could have had Charter or Comcast because they overbuilt each other right there, and there was also a telephone company out there that used to provide what they called Cat TV. Well, Cat TV ran off Ethernet, right? And this is like, 8 years ago. So they were kind of a little bit, you want to say they were a little more in the future than they should have been at the time, but their plant was running off twisted pair copper. So their backbone wasn't that good, and apparently they had a lot of problems with it. But this house was built. It was a 3-story house. It was built, and all the wiring in the walls was Ethernet cable, was Cat5 cable. So we had to replace every one of those outlets with coax so we could put our services in. Me and another guy did this install together because there was like 8 wall fishes in it, right? We didn't get done with the wiring till 2 o'clock probably, and we were there at 8. But the only time I had to make a couple of trips is like I was trying to count. All right, I got this, and I think they had 8 or 9 outlets. And I think that's right when X1 come out, because I think back then you could only have an X1 in one of the little hubs at first.
Yeah, I think for us it was 1 and 3. That's where they kind of maxed
I
us
think
out
we
for
were
a while.
1 and 1. I think that was the deal. Well, anyway, it was like one X1, one of the little hubs, like 5 or 6 DTAs and a gateway, and then we were having a backfeed into the phone system. So I thought I counted right, and one of their rooms was like on a 4th floor because they had a finished attic. Right as I was getting up there, I realized, shit, I'm 1 short. that was the only time I can remember having to go back and forth. Other than that, like they were so small, like it was easy to keep track of,
Yeah, see, and that's why I ended up getting the rolling tool bag now with the job I do, because now I'm more of a low voltage technician. So with my job, I require so many different types of tools. It's crazy. And I found myself going back to the truck continuously. So I ended up buying a bag where I can pretty much bring my entire truck with me and not have to worry about anything. I can usually fit 3 different drills, my hammer drill, my multi-tool, 3 to 4 different drill cases, drill bits, a tap set, and then sledgehammer, blow or dead blow hammer, ball peen hammer. I mean, I can just stack this thing with tools. So because I am very much so one of those people where I will make 20, 30 trips back to my truck. Oh, I need zip ties and freaking, clips for the house. And then I go to the truck, grab the clips, go all the way back, fucking zip ties back in the truck again.
Oh, that's something I did. Like when I told you about my tool bag, I had like a back and zip ties. I had 1-hole clips. I had just about everything I needed to wire, if that makes sense, except for the wire, which I would grab one of those boxes and off we go. I even put the plugs in there so I could plug the wall if I was going in the wall. Like I had everything I needed. So in terms of organization, I guess you can say I was organized. The only thing I didn't do once a week was get rid, like every day I'd clean the debris, but I didn't actually organize it but once a week. I would say this though to anybody that's either getting into cable or is having trouble kind of keeping up: take one day, clean your truck the best you can possibly get it, put things exactly where you know where they are, and try to make that a repetitive thing every time you go back to clean it. Say, okay, I'm gonna put
Yeah.
this here, this here, this here. That's the only way to do it. But you have to start like that too. So like my first week in the field, I knew where everything was. That was a
Yeah.
big thing for me. I knew where everything was, and it kind of stayed that way the whole time I was there.
But I always say it takes like a year to settle in a van, I feel. I feel to really find a spot for everything and know everything 100% up and down, left and right. Um, how about this? What are your top 3, whether they're ideas to keep your van more or truck, whatever you may have? Um, what are your main 3 ideas that you use to stay more organized? Whether it's, like you said, something repetitive that you have to stay on, a tip and trick, anything for new guys that are listening that they might be able to do that makes their day-to-day job that much easier.
When you first thing I would do is, like I said, take a day, put everything where you know where it is. Like sweep it out, clean it out, don't leave debris, make everything you know where it is.
So
That's
pretty
step
much
one.
a one good solid setup.
Yes, to know, okay, my house boxes are here, my
Yep.
splitters are here, my tools are here, my climbing stuff's here, my hard hat's here. You know where everything's at. All right, my wire is going to go here. My extra wire is going to go here. Whatever, put it where you're going to put it.
Yeah.
Second thing I would say to do is, honestly, and we talked about contractors and in-house. Contractors probably aren't going to have as much because they're not given as much. But in-house techs, we really didn't get given a lot either. Like I bought tool bags and stuff. They gave us like a pouch, but there was a lot of stuff we didn't have. Like if you need something that's going to make your life easier, go buy it.
Yeah, I have to say
Just
I agree
just
with that
just
one
go
too.
buy it because it'll over the long run it'll save you a lot of headache. Um, third
I
thing
bought
I'd
that cargo net and my repeats dropped right down to hold those
well,
boxes up.
we'll say that's a coincidence. But the third thing I think I'd say on that, man, is like when you're prep. Say if you're doing an install and you know that okay, I'm here for 4 outlets. We're putting this, and this in there, and you got to run 4 outlets. When you get there, all right, I know where I'm going to run. I need to go ahead and get my wall plugs, my wall plates, whatever you need. Put it together, and I would do like in 2 separate goes. All right, I'm going to do all the wiring. All right, I need my house box and my split bolt and my ground wire and my ground tag and my ground block and everything. Get it all together. Take it to the house. Do that part of your work. Clean up your mess. Put it in the trash. Go back, then get your equipment. That's a good way to stay organized. If you do one section at a time, don't try to overthink it. You could take and put your equipment where it's going to go. That's okay, but do one section at a time so you don't get like overwhelmed.
Sweet. Yeah, yeah, there you go. I have to say, if I could pick three things, I'd give you more of organization tips. Um, One of the things I always found to be a pain in the ass was my layup sticks. Being up north, we get storms, whether it's in the wintertime or even heavy rain. Down drops are just a super common thing. But layup sticks, I feel like they were kind of a few and far between use thing. So what we would end up doing is, do you know those broom clips? Have you ever seen them before? You just mount them on the wall, you push the broom into it, and the little clamp
Yeah,
opens up and grabs it. We used to
yeah,
line those up on the ceiling on the truck and just push those sticks up into those. So you'd
dude, that's
have,
pretty sweet. I like that. Yeah.
yeah. So it was one of those things where they were out of the way, they were high up, you didn't have to worry about them. Unless you're a super tall guy, then you got to worry about whacking your head off when you jump in the back of the truck. But um, they were simple to grab and they just stayed out of the way. You didn't have to dig them out or anything like that. Number two, I'd have to say was PVC pipe for my drill bits. I would end up taking probably, I don't know, a foot of PVC, capping the bottom and drilling it up against one of the cabinets on the floor, and I could, just throw all of my drill bits in there. They were organized, they were easy to find. It wasn't digging through shit, and it was super cheap to do it. And I never had to look for a drill bit ever again.
Oh, can I add to that since
Yeah.
you brought that up? You ever seen it like the grocery store or gas station, the little M&M minis that come in them little tubes?
Yes. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I used to put my little drill bits in those.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, my small, like my mason bit and stuff, I would
Yep.
stick it down in those. And I put it in my tool pouch, and it was just one of them little tubes. But I used to lose those all the time. And then one day, my son, we were at the grocery store, and he was screaming for some of those. And I thought, dude, whenever you get done, I want that. And he ate them, and then he gave it to me, and I started sticking my bits down there. I didn't lose one after that. That's a good thing, too. Go ahead.
There you go. What did I use? I always used to use like dip dip tins for like my phone connectors and the scotch locks and mouse condoms, stuff like that. But anyways, and then if I had to pick the third tip, which I actually haven't done yet, I don't know how many guys this will actually apply to. Probably more the commercial guys. Um, but I was actually I was pulling some Cat 5 in a school the other day, and they ended up having another company in there doing, I don't know if it was an intercom system or something, but he had a 6-foot fiberglass ladder set up. Now, did you guys use glow rods at all?
Yeah. I actually broke a lot of them. I ended up having to buy me a new set at one time. Go ahead.
We just bought some like at my company, and we ended up spending, I think, for three green leaf glow rods. It ended up being like $57 for three of them, and they're probably only six, no, probably about 5 feet long, so they're not even huge ones. But anyways, so he had a ladder set up, and on the side of the ladder, he took this. I think it was about a half-inch piece of PVC and probably about 8 inches long. And he had another one that was probably about the same length, but that one had a cap on the bottom. And the one with the cap he put at the bottom of the ladder, and then the just open-ended pipe on both sides about another 3 feet up. And what he did was he actually used it to throw his glow rods in the side of his ladder. So as you're up in the ceiling working, instead of trying to fumble around with these glow rods in your hand, you literally put this pipe on the side of your ladder and you throw your glow rods in it, and you don't have to worry about leaning them up against the wall. You always have a home for them. I just thought it
How
was
did he connect it without putting holes in the ladder?
so that's the big thing. I don't know. Do you guys have Easy Pass down there?
What the hell is that?
Easy Pass for like tolls.
We don't have toll roads down here, man.
So we have tolls up this way, and they have this heavy duty Velcro. It's industrial. That I think that would probably be the best thing to use for it. I don't know if he just taped it. I'm pretty sure he didn't drill it because that was one of the first things I looked for, so I could, kind of bust the guy's balls. But um, honestly, I just thought it was a genius idea. I think heavy duty Velcro would probably be the best bet, or glue if you don't mind gluing it. I would like to have the option to be able to take it off, just because I wouldn't want those pipes getting knocked off and broken. But I just thought it was a genius idea to actually just make a saddle or a holster for your glow rods.
That is pretty neat,
Professional as
man.
I
Yeah.
just made that sound.
So basically, what we're saying, there's a million different ways. You kind of got to find your little niche and how you do things.
Yeah, and it's trial and error. I mean, I failed many a times, and like you said, I've bought in many of tool bags, had them for a week, and go, nope, this isn't the one. Next.
Well, I'll say this: the reason I started using that spool a lot more than the side reel in my truck, and this doesn't necessarily fit organization, but it makes sense to anybody that's a cable tech. When I was real young at it and didn't know a lot about it, I remember this one time I had to run a drop. It was like 70 feet to this trailer, and I walked it off, and yeah, I got plenty. I tied it off. I was a foot short at the tap, so I'm like, you know what? From now on, I'm going to set my reel by the house. I'm going to pull it to the tap. I'm going to tie it off. I'm going to connect it. Then I'm going to attach it to the home, and I'm going to leave plenty at the bottom. And so I started using that reel a lot. So it took up space, granted, but
Yeah.
it saved me a headache in the long run. I
I
almost barreled it, but I was like, if I spliced that, my boss is going to kill me. So I just reran it.
I my cable reel for my drop cable, I had the spool mounts in my truck as well, but the one I could take out of my truck was collapsible. So I was able to break it down and just throw it in the side of my truck. Um, actually,
Well,
and another,
mine was too, but I always left cable in it. I had more
yeah,
cable in my truck than anybody. For instance, I'd have two rolls in the side. I'd have one on my spool on my reel. I'd have like three boxes of that cable and two extra drop wires all the time.
yeah,
Because where I worked at, dude, like the shop was in the middle of a little town in Georgia there in Chickamauga, but like way out, like we'd go way out, dude. And like if you ran out of cable or anything, you're just kind of screwed because you got a long drive
yeah,
back to get anything. So like I piled that thing full of cable. So I never ran out of cable, and I ran a lot of it too. Like I remember there was days where I'd use two of those boxes. That's what 500 feet or whatever it was.
Jesus
Like
Christ.
yeah, dude. Like and
See,
like I
and
said
that's
though,
actually so to add to your short drop, that's another thing that I've learned to do recently. I do it more on my Cat 5 boxes. I know the Comcast techs now have the cable bags, so unfortunately, I don't think this one would work as well for them. but we're big on every time we use a box of Cat 5, when we're done at the end of the day with the box and we're ready to load it up in the truck, we always pull the last, foot or two out, look at how many feet are left, and write it on the front of the box. That way, when you go to grab it, you know exactly how much is in it. You're not fucking around. I'll go to job sites and I'll be like, all right, I need to pull 3 or 4 Cat 5 runs from this classroom to an IT room. But I don't want to sit there and pull 5 individual runs with the same box. I want to pull them all at the same time. So it's nice to be able to kind of look at that stack of boxes in my van and be like, all right, that one has 250 feet, 250, these ones are lighter, but it's just enough. So I'm going to carry these ones kind of thing. So I think that's also another great thing to be able to save you time.
Yeah, it could. Yeah. I always checked it. Like my thing is that on that specific thing, that specific it's incident, I just walked it off and then I cut it. I pulled it out and then I cut it and I'm like, I got plenty. And I didn't. So,
Yeah, but see, if you do commercial, I do Cat 5 runs that go 15 feet to, I've pulled them up to over close to 300 feet. Once you start getting over that, it's kind of flaky, but we try to keep shorter runs. But it ended up being helpful for us, at least. We ended up not wasting so much time, and I feel we have better use of the cable now. We waste less.
yeah, and well, me like I wasted a lot too, and I'm not gonna lie to you.
Oh
Like,
yeah, when I worked for Comcast, I wasted the fuck out of it. I didn't pay for it.
dude, I was like, yeah, I didn't either. I was like, and guys, I'm not telling you to waste cable if whoever's listening to this, but I will say this: if you got 20 feet on your roll, you're not of aerial. I don't think they're gonna lose like any market share or your stock
No,
options gonna go down over 20
God
feet.
no.
But like I remember my boss, he was always telling me, he's like, man, you need to strip the messenger off and make jumpers. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that, Rick.
Yeah,
I throw
right.
that shit right in the dumpster.
It was funny. I was a snob about pre-mades for a very long time. I refused to use them. I ended up getting a repeat on one time, and that was it. I didn't trust them after that. But towards the end of my career, I got super lazy, and I was like, "Yep, nope, pre-mades are it." So there is
I
no
didn't
way in
use them
hell.
for I didn't use them like off wall plates or anything, but I used them for like back in the day where you had your RF out. I'd use them for that.
Yeah.
But like
See,
I
when I had the backpack, I just ended up spooling a bunch of. I mean, you could put jumpers in there, but I would just spool like 25 feet of cable and throw it right in the backpack and just cut from it as I needed it.
Well, what's cool though, man, that worked out for me real well is this one time it snowed like super bad here, and if it snows here, like it ain't like where you're from. If it snows here and there's ice on the road and you can't see the road, people freak out and everything shuts down, right?
I was gonna say, so by super bad, you meant you got 2 inches and it stayed for
No,
like
we
2 days.
had about 8 inches of snow.
Oh
Um,
wow, that is a good amount for you
yeah,
guys.
yeah, and like the road had probably a inch and a half of sheet of ice on it, and that day I might have told you about this before, but they had sent guys out at different times in pairs, and when
Yep.
we weren't out doing a trouble call, we would be in the office, and when we were in the office, they had us sitting there paying us to cut jumpers. So we were just shooting the shit cutting jumpers. Well, this is what happened. Everybody cut these jumpers and we're throwing them in this box. Well, at the end of the day, everybody went home. Well, I had to take a shit. So I went to the office to drop a deuce, man. And there's this box that's got about 800 jumpers in it. And my ass took it.
The whole
And
box?
the whole box.
Oh my god, what the fuck were you planning on doing with 800 jumpers?
Well, I never cut another one the whole time I was there.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm sure you were on
uh,
a shit list after that, though.
yeah, everybody's like, well, I'm the next day or 2 days later. Where'd all those jumpers go? Dude, hell if I know, man. I had them.
That's
I,
that's when you
I
just
had them.
walk in from the back of the crowd and be like, "What kind of asshole would do that?" And then you just
Yeah,
walk
yeah.
out of the room.
I had those things crammed everywhere in that truck. If I needed jumpers, I didn't make any more. That was it.
Oh my god, Jesse's van looked like the Shaggy dog from Dumb and Dumber. He just taped all the jumpers to the side of the truck. Looks like the
Absolutely,
truck
sir.
the truck had dreadlocks.
I actually had some that were like wrapped around those hooks, and I had some on the top of the shelf. I actually used that console we were talking about. There was a bunch down in there. I had them everywhere, man.
Oh, good. Well, I think that was not a bad episode on organization. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I think everything went well. If anybody's got questions, they can always email us.
Yeah, or if they have any tips and tricks that we can share, they can message us and reach out to us and let us know what they do to stay organized.
Absolutely.
But, all right. Well, thank you guys again for tuning in to another episode of CATV Tech Talk. Again, I'm Drew, co-host Jesse. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
We're out.
See you. Like what you just heard? Then don't forget to click that subscribe button. Questions for the hosts or just want to say hello? You can email us at catvtechtalk@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/catvtechs. Thanks again for joining us, and don't forget, climbing, crawling, drilling, driving is just the beginning.